strategies, and know thy... That was like very mental of me. Know thy seller.
No gang signs.
The 3 steps to perfect deal analysis. We don't care what people want. We care why they want what they want. And we need to know the things that go behind those numbers to get that perfect deal analysis. This is something that the professional investor understands inherently and puts into every deal analysis that they do. And the investor just getting started may not fully appreciate the importance of kind of widening your scope of a deal analysis. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm so glad to have you here on Season 3 of Grant Teach Me Something. Stick around, and we'll get started on the other side.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, Batch Skip Tracing, Think Multifamily, CreativeCashFlow.com, and Lifeiner.
Teach me something. What's up? Right.
Hey, Grant, teach something.
Yeah, we feel good.
I know.
It's good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, it's there.
It is a day.
It's a day.
Let's
It's
make
another day.
statements.
So,
Perfect deal analysis,
Deal
man.
analysis. You know, it's funny because we do all these shows and I'm like knee deep in all the analytics, and we're always talking about what shows should we do or what should we go next, and basically I'm about to take credit for everything you do. But you know, I just noticed that one of your older deal analysis videos was doing fairly well,
Right.
And I was like, hey, we should probably touch on that.
Right. And so this is just as a tip to you guys. We really spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's going to be most helpful to you and what's going to get you to that next level, right? So if you have questions, if you have topics of particular concern or whatever that might be, like please drop it in the comments. If you're listening on the podcast, click on the link in the description, go to the YouTube page, drop in something that you're interested in learning about. And if we don't already have something that's like readily available to help you with that, or if it's just time to revisit the topic, we will revisit that because I want to make sure that you can buy more houses. I'm Grant Kemp from CreativeCashFlow.com, helping you buy more houses.
And on that note, I did this yesterday. I'm gonna do it again for you, but only difference being I'm gonna do it at the beginning of the show and not the end of the show.
Ooh.
Is best comment on YouTube. Next week we will give away both influence and persuasion, unless you already own those, and then we'll figure something else out. So that's on the comment section of YouTube, because Facebook doesn't like us. We still love you, everybody, but if you want to qualify for these books, down below, not the live chat, down below after this show is over, whatever, best comment, that could be a question, that could be a topic of what they want to see coming up. It'll be completely arbitrary based off of the judge of Grant and I, or just me. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But it'll be best comment, and we'll give away both influence and persuasion.
Those are great books.
1 week. 1 week from today.
1 week. All right, so let's talk about deal analysis. I think that one of the things that we need to understand as investors is that our deal analysis is more than just the numbers sometimes. And I say sometimes, I mean really always. Like, there's so many things that go into making sure that we understand whether or not we should pull the trigger. Now, before I go any further in this, I want to be ultra clear. Pull the trigger. Pull the freaking trigger. Don't get stuck in deal analysis. We've talked about this actually before this episode came on, of analysis paralysis and just the dangers of never knowing enough, right? You've got to know just enough to pull the trigger and go. So we're going to talk about some things today that are going to give you that information, that are going to give you that, like, what are the things that I should be looking for? But eventually, you're going to just have to say, you know what? I've got enough data in front of me to feel like this is probably going to work. Let's freaking do it. You don't need to go down and be like, well, but if my attorney charges $895, then I'm going to only make $1,054. But if he charges $897, then that's going to change the whole form. Stop.
And there's a famous Victor Hugo quote where he said, a good investor will know what they're doing before they get the contract, and a great investor will get the contract and then figure out what they're doing.
There you go.
Victor Hugo.
And to that point, there is, I don't know Victor Hugo, is he a made-up guy?
He's from like 1800s.
Oh. So, to that point, I forgot because now I feel stupid because I didn't know who that guy was.
It's not a real quote.
No. Oh, whoa. The only thing that matters. So this is going to be, you're going to hear me harp on this a lot. So one of the things, if you've read Traction, which if you haven't, you need to, it talks about is if people haven't heard it 7 times, they haven't heard it once. So I'm going to say things 70 times because, hey, why not? We're a 10 timeser. The only thing that matters, your only win is getting a contract and taking that contract to close. Nothing else is a win. Everything else is a waypoint. Okay? Getting your LLC is a waypoint. Doing your deal analysis is a waypoint. Making phone calls is a waypoint. Going to REI events is a waypoint. A win is getting the contract and taking that contract to close.
Yeah, I was going to point out the win is picking up money from the title company.
Exactly.
Because even then, that in itself, that's a better waypoint. It's a better milestone.
It is.
But the win is because too often, especially in this game of wholesaling or any kind of real estate investing, you know, your job as a real estate investor is not to get a piece of paper with ink on it.
Right.
Your job is to push it through, because sometimes your title companies, and sorry for the mini tangent, but sometimes your title companies will be rock stars. Like you got people like Brittany Washington, where you're like, here you go, and
dude,
you
she
can
freaking killed it for me the other day.
Yeah, you can walk away, and then she's like, oh, by the way, you have a check at your office or whatever.
Yeah.
Or you have some people that maybe are different. I don't know, but they need a little more guidance. They need a little bit more help. They're like, hey, we have this lien. They're like, don't you take care of that? Well, yes, but it'll take us a year and a half, so you have to assist.
Right.
So the whole mini tangent there is your job is, the win is picking up money.
Right, exactly.
Not the ink
so
on the contract.
that goes, I actually just filmed a video last week for my academy, CreativeCashFlow.com, that talking about like, it's not it's not a deal until money hits your bank account.
Right.
Because I've seen deals fall apart literally even after people signed. Everything was signed and done, and it got pulled back, right? But I understand, as an investor, we need those mental wins, and that's why I'm allowing the contract to be a win and taking that contract to close to be a win, because you got to feel good about yourself when you get that contract. But that's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is getting that thing to closing and picking up some money from the title company, right? So the reason I say that is that nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. You get the contract and you take that contract to close. Everything else, life is crap. Nothing matters. So when you're getting the call, the only thing standing in between you and the deal is the appointment, or you and the contract is the appointment. So go on the appointment as soon as possible. Get the contract as soon as possible. Ideally over the phone before you go on the appointment. Screw it. Figure it out, okay? So I want to be very clear about that I know that 95% of the people here watching feel a win from learning. You're not winning now. You are preparing yourself to win. That is what's happening. Don't let your endorphins make you feel like you don't have to do anything else because you've learned a new cool trick.
I just want to clarify, if you're watching this video, I see it as a fucking win. So it's a win for me, so keep watching.
I just want you to have the expectations
Excuse
of
my
contract and close. That's what you're getting at. Now, how do we know what to contract, right? That's the perfect deal analysis. That's getting into it. So my 3 steps, in honor of our season 3, we're doing a 3-step series. Our 3 steps here are know thy sums, know thy strategies, and know thy seller, okay? By sums, I mean numbers, because it's the only S word I could figure out that made numbers. You need to know all the numbers. And, I get a lot of times, because I'll JV with folks, if you need help closing a deal, you got something that's in front of you, and they'll be like, hey, I got a lead, and it's, 123 Main Street, and it's worth $150. Let's close it. Like, well, there's a lot more to it, right? Like, so you kind of got to figure out what those numbers are, okay?
Right.
Now, part of knowing what numbers matter will be our step 2 of knowing the strategies, right? Because what they owe doesn't necessarily matter, although it does. We're going to talk about that. Doesn't necessarily matter if you're going in as a wholesaler or a cash buyer, as much as it matters if you're going in as a sub 2 guy, girl, whatever. Because what they owe, if you're taking over on that, it's very important. What the interest rate is, how much longer is left on it, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But these are going to be numbers that are super important to understanding. So you've got to have your ARV. Got to know what the house is worth. Nothing matters more than what you can sell it for. We're starting at the end, right? Same likewise with what you can rent it for. Do you know any place that people might be able to find what a house would sell for and what a house would rent for?
Grant Kibb's DMs.
Punished.
Propelio.com, where you can get all your leads, your comps, and your website.
Frankly, I let my MLS access lapse. I don't even have MLS access anymore because Propelio does such a good job of, because MLS, frankly, like the user interface sucks with getting your comps, and Propelio doesn't. Propelio is quite good with getting your comps, and it is MLS data that you are having fed in front of you. They just did a better job of presenting it to you. So you need to know what the house is going to sell for. You need to know what the house could rent for.
Right. And what's interesting about the knowing your numbers is, and this is my favorite word for the past 2 months, is you can get as granular as you want to. But typically in the real estate community, like if I'm out with Grant or, hey, I've got a deal, what is it worth, ARV, how much does it need, repairs, and like that's basically, and what can I get it for? That's typically the 3 numbers. But on top of the numbers is, you know, each one of those can go even deeper. Like the ARV is, well, you need to know the numbers of the neighborhood. You need to know the numbers of the sub-market, the overall market, the national market. You don't need to, but that's how granular you can get with that. Same thing with the repairs is, oh, it's going to take $25,000 repair. It's like, okay, is it really?
Right.
Or, you know, is it 2 here, 3 here, 2,200 here, you know, $1,000 to mow the lawn? If you're paying $1,000 to mow the lawn, I'll mow your lawn.
Right.
But, you know, you could get as where, and
Will
then
you do it topless?
Shut up. And then how much can you get it for?
Yeah.
And that's where you the knowing your numbers is it a cash offer? Is it a plug to like Dan Diaz's video that we did yesterday where you can get creative with it? Is it, you know, creative financing like with what you do? Like there's so many, you can get so more details with each number.
Right, exactly. So the core numbers that, like, you know, are your basic numbers you got to know is what he just said. What's it going to sell for? I like knowing what it's going to rent for if you have any kind of holding strategy on the back end. But what are the repairs? Okay, and how accurate do you feel that those repairs are? And one of the interesting things about, like, when you talk about getting granular about it, like I was running a lead for one of my mentor students last week where it's like, hey, if you put in 25, you'll get 200. But if you put in 40, you might get 250, right? So it's like an extra 20 grand can bump that ARV up.
Right.
Because we've got evidence in our comps of like, look, if it's Formica and we don't really do much to it and just kind of leave the bathrooms alone, you can get 200 for that.
And just because that example is relevant, there's always the opposite of that, where if I put in 40, I can get 250. But if I put in 10, I can get 235.
Right.
And then you got to decide, is 30,000 less worth, you know, so you just you got to know your numbers.
Absolutely. So know what those are and have reason to back that up, okay? Now, there's going to be times, especially when getting started, that you might not know how the rehabs work, right? Or you might not know how to fully comp a property, whatever that is. Go back and watch. Haven't we done a JV video? We've done a JV video on Grant Teach Me Something. If not, we'll do one next week. I'll go look for it. But I think we've done one on JV. So go back and, partnerships. We talked about partnerships in there. And it was a 2-part series. So that was this season maybe. So go watch about that because there's going to be people who may be coming from the construction industry. Like I see that a lot. Like there's folks coming into real estate investing who were GCs, who were construction guys that want to get into real estate investing. So if you can bring the deal and you're not necessarily clear on the like rehab numbers, but there's this other person that's super clear on rehab numbers, but they don't necessarily have the deal. Maybe that's something for you guys to pair up on. You've got to have accurate numbers. Accurate numbers at the beginning stages are so important. So if you're doing a cash deal, your wholesale, and when I say cash deal, I mean the seller is going to walk away with cash in their pocket, and that's it. Okay. Versus like a creative finance deal or buying on terms where you might be taking over on their loan or you might be offering them their equity in installments or whatever that might be. Cash being all they get is cash and your relationship is done after the closing.
Can I take 30 seconds
Please.
for Dan? Only because it was so just delicious. So Dan Diaz, he had a strategy that he was talking about yesterday, and we all were like, go on, where he would bring like one of those big checkbooks to the house. And the first thing he asks is, so how do you spell your name? And he writes out a full check to the seller for $1,000, and he lets them hold it the entire thing. He's like, and you're going to get this at the end of the appointment when we come to agreement. So it gives real tangible meaning to the takeaway.
That's funny.
Because it's
like that. That's cool.
like I know you, I knew you would like it,
cool.
just because I can see your face, just like, oh my god, I'm going to use that because we always talk about the takeaway. But that's like a tangible takeaway.
Literally, I'm gonna need that back.
I'm gonna need that because you gotta think. First of all, 1,000. I don't care who you are. I don't care how rich you are. $1,000 is a lot of money. But as a person in the distressed situation, $1,000 is real money. So anyway,
yeah, that's awesome.
I thought
that's
you
cool.
might enjoy
I like that. Good
Yes.
job, Dan.
Sorry.
So we.
He's like, what the hell is that?
No, that's a great. That's part of the numbers, right?
Yeah.
What number did he write on the check?
Yeah.
So when you're doing the cash deal, those are your three things that matter: ARV and repairs, because that's all that matters. You're going to do your ARV, 75% of your ARV minus repairs. That's your maximum that you can offer them. I call this number play money because we don't have to offer them that. We can offer them less, right? There's a sliding scale in there. Let's say a $100,000 house and ARV. So we're going to start off with our offer at $75,000, and then 25 of that is cut up into repairs. There's $50,000 left over. That is a sliding number. You can give them 40 and you get an extra $10,000 of profit, right? So that's our kind of play money there. The next layer in is that I want you, even if you're a cash person, I want you to ask, how much do you owe on the property? And what is your interest rate on that mortgage? Get those numbers from them, because that could be how much longer do you have left on the mortgage. Those could be very important pieces of this puzzle that can help you make a ton more money. This is what separates the pros, okay? Now, when I talk about your basic numbers, you need your repairs and your ARV, right? That's what everybody knows how to do. I wouldn't be doing an hour-long episode on how to, well, you just got to get your repair numbers and you got to get your ARV, and that's how you do pro. No, figure out what they owe, figure out what their interest rate is, and figure out for how much longer they have that mortgage, because sometimes that will lead you down a path to a just massive payday that you would not have received without knowing those numbers. One example being, so we've got to think about like our today money and our tomorrow money, right? So like, what are some today money strategies?
Wholesaling.
Yeah, wholesaling, fix and flipping, right? Stuff you're going to get paid right now. That's all you get. What are some tomorrow money strategies?
Owner finance, landlording, like rentals, lending, those type of things, where it's, you're playing the long game versus the short game.
You're not going to make as much money right now, but you're going to make more money over a longer period of time. Okay? Now, I want to take a side step for a second and say, don't be ashamed if you need some cash right now. I have a lot of people, because they know that I'm so into creative financing, that like they'll get a deal and they're going to flip it or they're going to wholesale it, and they like are ashamed to tell me that they're flipping it or wholesaling it because they're like, yeah, I know I could have made more money on it, and if I held it. But like, dude, you need money, you need money. You can't buy groceries off of like, hey, did you know how much I'm worth? Give me those groceries, right? Tomorrow money is great, but you've got to have both, okay? But why you have to know these numbers is because you may be doing okay right now on some cash. Like maybe you can survive this next month without getting that big payday because you got a deal last month that gave you enough to survive. And if you look at this deal, it's like, well, look, I can make an $8,000 wholesale fee, or I can set up $600 a month for the next 30 years, and my underlying mortgage is going to be entirely paid off in 6 years, so my cash flow goes up by another $800. Yeah, let's do that deal long term, right? That's an example of something that you may not have known was an option if you were only looking at it from a cash buyer's perspective. If you were only looking at what's my comps, what's my ARV and my rehab, and then making a cash offer from there, you may not have realized that not only could you do your seller better with do better by your seller by giving them an offer with their equity and installments that gives them more money over time, and you can kind of substitute the property underneath, but you're setting yourself up to where, like in that example, let's say that you were doing $600 a month on cash flow. Well, that means that in your first year, you're going to make, what, $7,200 off of cash flow, which is less than the $9,000 that you could have made today, but it's every year. Every year you're making $7,200, and then at the end of that 6 or 7 or 8 year period when the underlying mortgage gets paid off, your cash flow goes up by another $800. This is how you sit down on the beach as a retiree and say, didn't we buy Main Street 8 years ago? And you look at your bank account and you're like, oh yeah, sure enough, for the past couple of months, we've been getting an extra $800 than we were before. There's your raise.
I was just going to say that was more.
Which is more.
Which is more.
So when we start talking about know thy sums, we need to know more than just ARV and rehab. We also need to know, what do you owe? What's the interest rate on that mortgage? When did you get that mortgage? How long ago was that? Would you be willing to take your equity in installments? That's the question. I love that question, right? There's two questions that are like some of my favorite lead questions to ask. One is, are you willing to take your equity in installments? One is, are you willing to sell for what you owe?
And on that, I think too often we've seen it here time and again, and we see it in the market as other real estate investors, that people get pigeonholed on the strategy they're using. And then eventually they're like, I'm going to try owner financing. I'm finally going to try a flip. I'm going to try this. And what I think everybody should do is when they get the contract or before they get the contract, add a number to that whole strategy of know thy numbers, which is, which strategy should I use here? And do I need $10,000 now, or can I afford to wait to get $100,000 over the next 10 years or whatever? And I think it would be better. I'm just trying to think of a good tip for people. And I think people just need to like put on the brakes for 3 minutes and just really analyze what's the best case of this deal that you have on the table. If you're a wholesaler, maybe I should JV with a Grant Kemp or somebody because I don't know the strategies. But even with the JV, whatever. Basically, I'm just saying is before you pull the trigger on something, take a beat and really analyze and say, okay, I have all this. I could wholesale it, I could flip it, I could own or finance it, I can own it as a rental, whatever. You burn it down and collect insurance. Just kidding. That is a joke. I am not a lawyer. Thank you. This was edutainment only. Anyway.
No, that's a perfect segue in. So we're going to take a break here, and our step 2 of this 3-step process is know your strategies. Know exactly what he's talking about, the fact that you don't have to know.
Is that why you were giving me that look of shut up?
No, I wasn't giving.
That was my next number 2.
I was giving you a look of like I'm listening intently because he's giving a perfect leeway. So exactly what he said. You don't have to know how to do the strategy. You have to know how to recognize the strategy. And we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about how points 1 and point 2 work together with each other, to where you're able to give a better offer to your seller than anybody else is giving, and you will make more money on it on the long run. So stick around. We'll see you on the other side.
Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
You want to buy more houses. Here's Dar and his wife after only 2 weeks of being my mentor student. And here's Brady after paying attention to all our online videos and attending all the live Q&As. You want to buy more houses? 3 steps. Sign up at CreativeCashFlow.com/memberships, watch all the videos, attend the live Q&As, and then send me a photo with you and your sweet, sweet new contracts. CreativeCashFlow.com, helping you buy more houses for one low price of only
All right, welcome back. So here we are, Grant Teach Me Something. My name is Grant Kemp from CreativeCashFlow.com, helping you buy more houses. You know what game we haven't played in a while? We haven't played the My Prices Are About to Go Up game in a while.
Oh my God. My brain went somewhere else, and I wish it would have went there.
So here's the thing. I spent like 4 months being like, my prices are going up right next week, and then like I just never did it. I've gone through a ton of
4
turnover.
months, more like a year and 4 months.
Well, I did, Ray. So anyway, what I'm getting at is I've rehired my staff. I've replaced my staff, and their big directive, 2-week deadline, our prices are going up in 2 weeks. So if you're watching this today,
going out of business.
Going out of business sale. No, the prices are going up right now. If you get into Grant Teach Me Something, it's $650. If you're watching this, you get the hashtag GTMS for a 20% discount, which makes it only $520. In 2 weeks, that's going to be $1295 for a 1-year membership to the weekly Q&As, lifetime membership to the videos that are on there, or $895 for a 2-week membership to the Q&As, lifetime membership to the videos. So it's going up either way. If you've been toying with the idea, get in now, because I'm giving you lifetime memberships for $520 that are about to be $1,300
and
for
on
1
that,
year.
if you're a part of Grant's school, academy, training, and you're watching right now, drop in the comments, do some social proof, help the guy out. I know Sonia's a part of it. So, drop some social proof in the comments
There you
of what the value is there for you guys. I know the value because I see him every day. Well, not every day, but what it feels like every day.
Yeah,
But that's why the comments is so big, because it is a social proof of value and in the community, not just in Creative Cashflow, but Propel Your World as well.
Right, absolutely. Thank you. All right, so getting into step 2. Strategies, knowing the strategies. Actually, it's funny because Thomas back here, who runs our all the camera angles and all the techie stuff that's going on here, is also, some of you may not know, a massive, just bad mofo in judo, and has a judo dojo, and he looks this like big lanky guy, but he will kick you in the face and throw you on the ground John Wick style before you have the chance to be like, and another thing. So we were talking about, he actually had this serendipitously get raised a couple of times in this last few days, both on the real estate side and the judo side, and he brings up a really good point of, our job is not so much to get hung up on the end result as it is to get hung up on the concept, right? We need to understand concepts, because the concepts are what make everything else work. For example, we know the alphabet. We got 26 letters in the alphabet, and all of the words in English are made out of those 26 letters. It takes 26 memorizations to be able to do the entire English language, right? Which is a loose analogy here, but all I'm saying is we want you to understand the concepts behind some of the strategies that are available to you in real estate, and why those things might matter to somebody more so than you have to understand how to get that contract signed, take it to the closing table, and get everything done there.
I think I don't want to say better, but an alternative strategy would be a car.
Okay.
I don't know how an engine works. I know if I put gas, oil in the vehicle and I start it and it has electricity, it'll go from point A to point B. So, and if it breaks down, you hire a mechanic. So same thing with the Sub 2 world or the owner finance world, Subtle Plug, Grant Camp, Creative Cashflow. I don't really know how to Sub 2. I mean, I know the concept of it, but I don't know the ins and outs. So therefore, I hire a mechanic or JV with a mechanic or whatever, and guess what? It goes. So that's same kind of analogy?
Absolutely.
Right.
So it's understanding that concept behind it that allows you to know when you can recognize, wait a minute, this might actually be a pretty good strategy or a pretty good owner finance deal, and I don't know how to do that. So let me consult with somebody who does, your mechanic. Likewise, if you're just getting started and you don't even necessarily know all the details of the wholesaling side or the fix and flip side or whatever that might be, if you understand the concept of hey, I need to get this thing contracted low enough to make, at a 75-cent rule, that's kind of the concept of it. If your seller is agreeing to a price that fits within that, you don't have to know all the details. You got to go find somebody who that's what they do and be like, hey, I think that this fits the strategy. Do you want to work on this together, right? So that's what we're trying to do in this segment, is just introduce that your numbers that you get in step 1 are going to give you a picture. And that picture can be chopped up a trillion different ways. I mean, we can sit down and we can find 17 different ways to make a profit on one deal, and sometimes it can be thousands of different ways to make a profit on one deal, and you just got to choose one and go with it, right? But if you don't ask the right questions up front, the open-ended questions, the W questions, what, why, when, who, that kind of about more at 3, you won't have the right numbers to lead you into saying, because prime example, one of my today, it was either yesterday or last, looking at a deal, and those numbers that I was throwing out were not entirely inaccurate. They were what we were looking at, where the question was should I wholesale the deal or should I take it down with seller financing? And it was $650 a month flow. And it turned out that this didn't end up being the real numbers after we ended up chopping it up, but that's why for them to recognize the opportunity and bring a mechanic, because we were able to chop it up a little bit more and realize that, an example, $650 in cash flow a month, $40,000 worth of equity, or about a $1,000 wholesale fee, okay? What it ended up being is $700 or $800 a year in cash flow. The underlying lien, the first lien, the only mortgage on the property was going to get paid off in 8 years, or 9 years. So the question becomes, well, either you make $13,000 this month and you never get another cent from it, or you can make $650 a month for the next 30 years. By the way, 8 years, your cash flow goes up by another $450. You're making $1,100 a month, which is more, right? And even within that, the seller still had equity. There's a to chop up the equity. They were able to recognize, ooh, hold on, there's something here. Something here, just the cash deal that I've got on the table, because this loan will get paid off in 8 years, which is great. And then there's this equity left over, which we can make offers on. I don't necessarily know how I'm going to make the offer to this person. I don't necessarily know why it matters that this is going to get paid off quickly, but I know enough to understand that this might fit well in that creative financing strategy bucket.
And the beauty of this business is, of real estate investing, is even that situation, it's not a this or a that. You could also do some, again, give me some room here, but you could do some hybrids where maybe it is you have to have $2,000 or you can't put gas in your car,
right,
or you can't feed your kids, or you can't do something, so you have to have $2,000, but you really see the opportunity of that long-term cash flow. Well, because this is the wild, wild west and you could creatively do whatever the hell you want to do, there could be a possibility where you could find a JV partner like a Grant or a Tommy or a Ryan or a whatever, where they'll give you $2,000 up front to be a part of the deal. Yes, you're going to give up some on the back end, but the point being is about the strategies is there's so many ways to skin the cat or whatever that even if it's not a this or that, you could find some kind of cross-pollination there.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, I mean, I know a lot about real estate. I know a lot about different strategies, but there's things that if I'm going to move into a different, if I was going to go into storage units, which eventually I might, right? That's kind of on my radar. I'm not just going to like go out and like try to, I'm going to find something that kind of resembles a deal and I'm going to take it to one of the dudes that I know that is good at storage units and I'm going to say, hey, can I trade you this deal for the knowledge to work with you on it and have you help me through it to make sure, right? So like I can recognize this looks like it's enough to fit into a different type of strategy than I've previously been fighting for, right? So that's why I want to be very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Transparent?
Well, no, not transparent. No, it's more of like I want to push this idea of you're not dictator. You're not a wholesaler. You're not a fix and flipper. You're not a landlord. You're not an owner financer. You're a single family real estate investor. And as a single family real estate investor, you're going to have different tools in your tool belt. And you should be able to pull that tool out at any one point in time. And if you ask the right questions in step one and you know thy numbers, then the deal tells you how you can make the most money off of it. You don't go in there as a hammer looking for a nail. You go in there as a mechanic who's going to turn a screw here and turn a screw here and see if you can fine-tune this deal and chop it up in such a way that it's like all of a sudden it becomes very apparent like, ooh, I didn't realize I was going to be able to make a lot more money if I do it like this. You let the deal dictate how the deal works. That's what separates the pros. When I say perfect deal analysis and what separates a professional from a newbie, that's it. We let the deal tell us how it's going to make the most money, and then we decide, do I like making the most money over here, or do I need some cash right now to go get new tires on my car?
So I have a very philosophical analogy there. So you need to be very proactive in getting in the door, getting in the house, getting the deal itself. But then you need to be like an artist, and you have a piece of stone, and you let the stone tell you how you want to sculpt it.
Yes. Is it Michelangelo that says...
I have no idea.
You don't even hear the quote. You're just like, I don't know.
It's not a quote. I'm just
I think
whatever.
It's Michelangelo that says that he just breaks away everything around. Like,
I could see that being, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like he sees a stone. He knows that his statue is inside of it. All he does is remove everything and release that
inner beauty. Right, yeah. So basically, the point being is, again, let the deal tell you what it should be, not you tell the deal what it should be.
Right, exactly. So we've talked about getting proper numbers up front.
You could be the Yoda, but then also be Michelangelo. Anyway, move on.
The Ninja Turtle one. So we asked the proper questions. We need to expand our scope of questions. Ask them confidently. So what do you owe on the house? How much do you, or what's the interest rate on it? How much longer do you have that? Do you have any other debts on the property? That's going to be very important. Another number that you need to ask for, I probably should have brought this up in the first segment, is, and this is one of my other favorite questions. I stumbled upon this because I just said it one day and I was like, ooh, I'm going to start saying that all the time, which is, do you have any immediate and pressing cash financial needs like a broken down car or a medical bill, something like that needs to be paid off? Because that tells them your problem must be at least this tall for you to tell me that it's an issue that needs cash. And a lot of times they'll say, no, not really, or I've got a medical bill for $3,000, or I'm just looking for some cash to be able to move. And that right there tells you, hey, 40 minutes from now, when you make your offer, you have to give them all their cash. They have just told you, only will be happy if you walk away with $3,000, but you can get them the money in payments, right? That's another that you need to know. Know thy numbers. Right?
In the you just said there, I don't know if I picked up, because as an investor, when you're on appointment, anytime you're communicating with a seller, you need to be listening, and not just listening. Like, I'm kind of listening, not like Ryan Harper and where I'm kind of listening and most of the time have no clue what's going on. You need to be actively listening. That way, when a seller does something huge that you can later use in negotiating or later use to determine your strategy, you have to be doing that. So I think too often in the investment world, we like to beat our chests like, oh, I'm an investor, I do this, I make gajillions of dollars, blah, 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 blah. But when you're in an appointment, the only thing that exists is that person and that property. And all that other stuff is just fluff and just crap. So you have to be listening.
Absolutely. I love that. Which is a great segue, really, into know thy seller. All right, so we're going to take a break. We're going to try and fix our microphone issues while we're gone. And then when we get back, we will be talking about know thy seller and how we can apply these first two principles into making an offer that nobody else can make, which gets you the deal over the other investor. See you there.
Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
You want to buy more houses? Here's Dar and his wife after only 2 weeks of being my mentor student. And here's Brady after paying attention to all our online videos and attending all the live Q&As. You want to buy more houses? 3 steps. Sign up at CreativeCashFlow.com/memberships, watch all the videos, attend the live Q&As, and then send me a photo with you and your sweet, sweet new contracts. CreativeCashFlow.com, helping you buy more houses for one low price of only
Three, 2, 1, Ryan. What's
and we'll just record this later again.
We think we got the mic fixed there. Sorry about those issues. The digital age. Don't you love it?
I hate it all.
All right.
Burn it all down.
So let's apply this. Why does this matter, right? I've said a couple of times, my job is to try and help you guys buy more houses. Well, if you know the proper numbers and you know the strategies that are available to you, the next thing that you need to know is your seller. You need to have listened to the things that they're telling you. The phrase that I used at the very beginning on the intro of this was, we don't care what they want, we care why they want what they want. And that's one of the things I try to get through to my students' heads too, is that if your seller says, I want $80,000, why? Why do you want $80,000? Is it because you feel like your house is worth $80,000? Is it because you have a medical bill of $80,000 that needs to get paid off? Is it because you've got liens for IRS that are $80,000 on the property? Why do they want that? Because that answer changes things dramatically. Let's take those 3 examples, right? If they have an IRS lien, should you back away from that deal if they've got an IRS lien? Let's say that the house is worth $150,000 and they've got a $140,000 IRS lien. Can you do the deal?
It depends.
It depends. Yes. What does it depend on? Do you know?
The numbers.
The numbers. Oh, a great scapegoat answer.
Again, if it's worth $150,000 and the lien is $145,000, there could be is it a homesteaded property? I mean, there's so many sub things that you should be. That's why it depends is the joke answer, but it's actually the real answer. It really is the answer,
right? Because you're right, and you hit the nail on the head. Homestead, right? If you're talking to a seller it's their homesteaded property. At least this is Texas law. If it is their homesteaded property and they have an IRS lien on the property, you can get what's called a partial release of that lien. If they needed $145,000 on a house that's worth 130 and they're saying that they've got to have that because they've got this IRS lien on there, you might be able to buy the house and just remove that IRS lien. Get an attorney like Scott Horn or somebody like that to help you remove that IRS lien. It's a partial release, and you can still buy the house. I've bought probably 5 or 6 houses that like 10 other investors looked at, they backed out because it had an IRS lien on it, and I was like, all right, well, let's get it removed, right? We buy it. I don't care what they want. I care why they want what they want, right? If they want $80,000 because they've got a medical bill of $80,000 that needs to get paid off, well, then I know that I got to buy them, or I got to give them some cash. I got to give them some cash to pay that off. So maybe now I am only looking at cash strategies, or as I'm looking into purchasing this property, I understand that part of my deal analysis, one of the numbers that I need to know from step 1 would be what kind of lending is available to me. Am I able to get second lien money for $80,000 that might allow me to take over their house sub 2 and then do a second lien of $80,000? What terms are that? Is that lending at? Is it at 10%, 5 years, 30-year amort, whatever that might be, right? That's part of knowing my numbers. Part of my analysis is what are my resources that are available to me? Is it private money or no? If I don't have private money, that's not an option. I got to get this person cash. Maybe I got to wholesale the deal, right? But again, I don't care what they want. I care why they want what they want. And then the last example I gave was because they think their house is worth $80,000. Okay? Well, if we didn't ask why, if we don't have these W questions, the why, who, what, when kind of questions that let them just talk to us, really talk at us, they will talk at you for hours. Let them talk at you until you get all the information you need and then start making your move. But if they think their house is worth 80, well, is it worth 80 or not? If it's not worth 80, then now it's time to start educating them and letting them know why we value the property as we have, and so that we can make a fair offer to them that may be, when I say fair, it might be fair as in it's going to be competitive with everybody else, or might be overly fair. We might be able to get them way more than anybody else is going to offer because everybody else is coming in at a cash offer at $75,000, and we're able to offer them that $85,000 with terms, right? So if we know their motivations, it allows us to make some decisions that otherwise couldn't have been made. Too many people have been so trained on, I need to know my ARV and my repairs, and then I make my offer and they can take it or leave it. But they forget to ask the open-ended questions and figure out, why do you want the thing that you want from me? What is going on in your life that needs this cash right now? Oh, you think it's going to take $10,000 to move all your stuff? Guess what? I'll hire the movers. It's going to cost me $1,500. Well, I just saved $8,500. I've done that before. Literally, somebody thought that they needed $10,000 cash, and I was like, well, why do you need that? Well, because I've got to get the movers, and I need to go over there. And I said, look, how about this? How about I give you a couple $1,000s cash, and I hire the movers, right? Save myself $5,000 or $6,000 off of what they asked for, and it was still a smoking deal for myself. But I knew why they wanted the money, and it allowed me to make a better offer.
Thus listening.
Thus listening. Active listening is such an important skill in investing. And I know you've got a big kick on this, on the active listening. You always have.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just because people will tell you what they want. Like if you, and everybody loves, and I think, I don't know if it was a book or a study or you told me, or because obviously I was listening, but it was just like, if you allow somebody to just talk to you and you listen more, like, I forgot where, again, I hate it. But like if we were on a date and you just started talking to me and all I did was ask questions and never told you a thing about myself to you, you would think I was the most interesting person in the world.
Yeah, that's actually from me. So
is that you?
Yeah, so that is one of the, so here's a great way, and I'm glad you brought that up because I had forgotten about giving that tool to people. Here's a great tool for you. This is a fun game to play at parties and stuff like that because people will like love you. They'll think you're awesome. Try to see how long you, because this is a great way to practice the skill that I'm talking about right here with knowing your seller. Next time you're at a social event, try to see how long you can go without telling the person on the other side of your conversation a single thing about you. That's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Try to see. Make it a little game for yourself. If there's a clock around, like kind of look at the clock, see what time it is, and see how long you can keep that conversation going without telling that person a single thing about yourself. And the funny thing is that we're all so self-involved and you know, like I'll leave parties and people are like, man, that Greg guy's awesome. Like I'll hear somebody like, man, he really liked you. And I just kind of laugh because I'm like, yeah, it's because I literally told him 0 things about me. And I just kept asking questions about how they were doing. And by the way, 13 minutes, right?
I can just see the back and forth.
Right, just back and forth. So I'm really glad you brought that up because I wouldn't have remembered to put that in there. But this is an excellent way to practice this skill. Really, take that to heart because it's a lot of fun for yourself. And then guess what? You get to know people really well, right? That's the cool thing. I mean, we kind of play the psychological game with it and we make it fun for ourselves, but you really get to know people and you really get to know the things about them. And if you can, because how you're going to fail at this game is like if you're stumbling and you can't come up with any more questions and that kind of stuff. But it's just as much an exercise in finding a way to ask a question to this person constantly to where they aren't like, dude, this guy's weird. Like all he does is ask questions, right? Like now you failed. You cap your time. You can kind of sense that time, but or sense that moment where they feel that. But if you can just keep the conversation flowing, you're just like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like tell me about that. Or,
I can just imagine like once you get to the point where you like, oh, it's a bit awkward. My middle name's Scott.
Is your middle name Scott?
It is.
All right, now I know how to hack into your bank accounts. That's your safety question. I've been waiting
luck.
for you to tell me.
Like, woo! It's like crickets.
So I want to ask.
Moths.
I want to ask you guys, the YouTube and Facebook watching public here. What are some little tricks that you use? Like I really loved hearing that thing about Dan Diaz with the check. Like that's a kind of cool thing. What are some little tricks that you use to get to know your seller better, right? Is there something that you have in your back pocket that allows you kind of an edge on this conversation where you feel like your rapport, and this is a Daniel Moore quote, rapport has bought more houses than cash ever has. I love that quote. It's absolutely true. And it's the same kind of concept of we don't care what they want, we care why they want it. It's just his is much nicer than mine. So let me know, like, how are you extracting that information and what are you doing to actively work with these strategies and get these numbers? Is there a number, to that point, that you feel has been really useful to you that other people may not have really thought about, right? Is there a number that's like, hey, I always get them to tell me this, and that gives me a huge clue. Like mine would be the, do you have any immediate and pressing cash needs, like a medical bill or a car repair or something like that that needs to be paid off? I love that question. Do you have something along those lines? So throw that in your comments here on the YouTube stream, on the Facebook stream, anything like that, because I'd love to hear about that. So those are our 3 steps. We got to know our numbers, we got to know our strategies, and we got to know our seller. And it's all through these open-ended questions. And when you have that, that is what you need for the puzzle pieces to be put together. And now you can look at the deal and let the deal tell you how you're going to make the most money off.
And if you're watching this episode, you're thinking, wow, I mean, this has been a higher level because we've done videos on going into details on all 3 of those things. I'll attempt to find those videos and drop them in the descriptions later. But because we've done several videos on the actual nitty gritty of deal analysis. We've done several videos on strategies, and we've done several videos on knowing your sellers. But this has been a good tie-in of how those all culminate together. I'm trying to use bigger words. I don't know if culminate's a bigger word, but it is to me. But again, yeah, like how does this help you? Any kind of feedback? Again, best comment in the YouTube world, if down below.
I think my name is Grant Kemp and I will fight you is up there for.
I think that was. I don't know if it's towards me. I don't know. But yeah, that's all I got. How is your limit? Oh, how is my intern search going? Non-existent.
Y'all want to? Here's another thing. So understanding, this is a side note, and then we'll be ending up. But these guys, if you're looking for an intern, guys, get in the way of people that make money, and you'll make money. Don't get in the way. Get in the path of. Walk with. Mitch Stephen talks about like. So one of the things that I don't think enough gurus talk about, and one of the reasons I respect Mitch in this aspect, is that I like to let people know, like there is an element of luck. Gurus don't like to say that because then they can't separate you from your wallet. But there is an element of luck. We can know so much, but at a certain time, luck takes into effect. Mitch puts it as, yes, you're going to have to eventually get hit by the cash truck, but if you don't put yourself in the street to get hit by the cash truck, you're never going to get hit. So if you're trying to get involved, you're trying to get out there, Get in the path of people that are making deals work. Get in the path of people that are making money happen. And eventually that will come back and help you. Sonia does a really good job of that. Brady does a really good job of that, of offering value, being around, and then that creates relationships that make people want to reciprocate. So if you're looking for a way to get in, looking for an internship, reach out to Ryan in the DMs. Talk about that, because you could really have a good path to success there.
Brandon Bowden, I always ask sellers if they've ever thought about renting the property out. This opens them up to tell them why they want to sell.
Yes, and that's actually a really good one. I was talking to, so I just took on a student that started yesterday, and we were talking about that because one of his leads was already renting, right? They were already a landlord. No, I take that back. Yes, one of his leads was already a landlord. This conversation came from another one where the person, sometimes the seller will try to do a takeaway in such a way that, like, if you're really good at judo, you can, like, kind of use their energy against them. That's a shout out to you, Tommy. So the common one that a seller will do as, like, an attempt at a takeaway is like, oh, well, I'm just going to rent it out. Oh, so you just told me you don't need cash right now and you're okay with long-term income. Great. Let's start chopping up some creative financing deals like that, right? These little ways to hear what they're saying and turn it around in such a way that's going to be useful to you. Very important there. So yeah, if they're talking about renting it out, that tells you an idea of, if they're really hurting for cash, they're not going to be looking at renting it. They're going to be only looking at cash deals. But if they try to do a takeaway of, well, I'm just going to rent it out. Well, how would you feel about if I gave you the same cash flow that you would actually be making off of the rental, but you didn't have to worry about tenants, toilets, and trash?
Marty Gilbert, use their own words back to them. They love hearing their own words. Yes, that's actually NLP, neuro-linguistics programming. Same thing with leaning in or leaning out, leaning to the right, leaning left. They touch their face, you touch their face. Yep. Bryce McKinley actually did a good series on that on the Propelio Academy. Shout out to propelio.com/academy, where you can learn all that stuff for free. Matt Smith, one of his questions, where do you see yourself in 1 year, and see what they say? Yeah, exactly. Juan was asking, how do they get in your path, Grant?
JVs. That's going to be the area where I'll work with people, either JVs or like Brady's done. Brady has just offered value. He's one of my students on the CreativeCashFlow.com Academy. Same thing with Sonia. Sonia hooked me up with Steve Trang. She's always looking for ways to add value. She's one of the students on the Creative Cash Flow Academy. Just try to find ways to be around, right? Like that's the best thing that you can do, is offer value. Try to be around, and then if you've got a deal, that's a quick way to, work together and get something out of it.
Juan, earlier he was talking about, will you take 180 payments?
I will, but I'm going to charge you a lot more interest, and those payments are going to be $400 a month. Just playing. All right, guys, I think that's probably a good wrap up. You want to go through some more questions?
I'm just trying to see on the Facebook you scroll. I know Brady had something about percentages.
Yeah, he's got a buyer looking for a property. I may have a property to place him in. So we'll talk
anything
about
else there, Mr. Thomas, sir?
I think we're good.
All right, cool. I think we're good. Propelio.com. If you need comps, you need leads, you need websites, Propelio.com has you covered. If you need all the education in the world, Propelio.com/academy. We've got our Driving for Dollars up, finishing up beta right now. We've got national leads and national websites in beta right now. I can tell you my Slack is a communication internal messaging thing that we use at work, and it blows up daily of all the updates that were coming around for that. We've got the July 9th event here in DFW. People fly over from all over the country to come to it. We've got
our keynote speaker is flying from all the way across the country.
We've got Christina
Kraus.
And can you give us a 30-second plug about her?
Christina Kraus is an incredible lead. So somebody earlier asked about lead generation. Guess what? I got Christina Kraus come down from Delaware to teach lead generation on the Academy and to teach lead generation at the Propelio event. And the chick is amazing. She's got data on data on data on data. She's brilliant. Her average client spends $100,000 plus a month in marketing. She's marketing for 50 of the top 200 investors in the nation, and she's going to come share all of that information with you guys at the July 9th event.
And then I, since you said I got her, I was able to get Carlos Reyes to come in as well from Phoenix. And I'm not sure if Sal, his partner, is coming as well. But he also is going to be, because this event is all going to be about lead generation and marketing. So Christina and Carlos will both be doing a 45-minute presentation, and then directly after that we'll have a panel. On the panel will be Christina, it'll be Carlos, it'll be Donovan Ruffin, moderated by Mike Hambright, and then the fourth person on the panel. I haven't locked that down yet. I've got a couple invites, but I'm sure it'll be epic. But this event, and it's completely free. So if you're watching from across the country and you're looking for valuable information, this is one of the events you should go to. Free booze, free food, free education, and a whole lot of awesomeness.
You can't ask for more.
Well, you could.
Well,
You're just not going to get
be dumb. Thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate having you here. Every Wednesday, 11 a.m., Grant Teach Me Something on YouTube, on Facebook. Make sure that you come back next week, and we'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, Batch Skip Tracing, Think Multifamily, CreativeCashFlow.com, and Lifeiner.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up to the Propelio event. We had a great time. It's huge, as always. We love everybody that came. If this is your first event, jump on Facebook, jump on YouTube. Let us hear it. Let us know what your thoughts are. We love feedback. Anytime we could do something better, we want to do that. If this is your second event, your third event, your 10th event, let us hear that too. We're trying to create a community here where everybody comes together. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you at the next one.